Welcome to the show. I'm Mike.
Hey, I'm Maggie.
And we are Friends on Fire.
And we're on a mission to get friends to talk about money. Man, Mike, I just got off. I actually had to leave it a little bit early to do this, or it was running a little long. I just got off a Facebook Live session with the Indigo Girls and Glennon Doyle, who just wrote Untamed, and Abby Wambach, the famous soccer player. And it was just a really great discussion. Like, I thought it was going to be a little bit more. You know who they are, right? All those people?
I know who the first two are. I don't. No. Wait. I know who the Indigo girls are, and I know who the soccer player is. Who is Glennon Doyle? Is that like two people? Is it like a
Glennon? No,
duo?
That's one. Glennon Doyle. No, that's her name. Very Irish name. No, she wrote the book Untamed. I put a couple of social posts on our Instagram account lately because I'm in the middle of reading it. I've got like 20 pages left. My friends and I have been talking about it. A lot of us have read it. It's just a really good book. It's like her memoir. She's got a really fascinating story of just kind of her life. I'm not going to give any of it away, but it's a great book. I have really enjoyed it. And it's been, I think sometimes certain books are made even better by when they come out and when they kind of come into your life. And I think it's a good book anyways, but I think the fact that it's come out while everyone's at home in quarantine and sort of going through this very unusual time in the world, and everyone's got a lot of feelings and emotions, and, you know, it's just like thinking about a lot of things in their life, make it an even more interesting book right now. You should get a copy for your wife as a present. It'd be a nice little gift.
You don't think I would like to read it?
I actually told my husband I thought he should read it. I will definitely say it's a little bit more targeted towards women, but and so I'm sure if you were to like poll the percentages of women versus men reading it, it's probably like 90% women. But as a father of two young women, I actually think it's incredibly important that you read books like this, because it just gives you a lot of perspective about, I think, how to raise women well.
Well, let me know if Greg reads it and likes it. Like when you both read The Quest.
I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to convince Greg.
Well,
to read
no,
it.
but here's why. So like you were telling me about that book, The Quest. And I was like, I guess it sounds all right. But then when Greg also read it and liked it, I was like, I better read this.
Oh my God, I can't believe you give more...
It's not that I give him more credit. It's that when he also did it and liked it, I was like, all right, I'm sure this is good now. When it's just you, I'm like, this could be hit or miss.
I know, right? You're like, that's 20%. Greg gets me to 100%.
Exactly.
Anyways, Facebook Live session was awesome. It was just, I thought it was going to be a little bit more of like an on the surface discussion, but it was just a really good discussion around everything from race to politics to their music to it was just a lot. It was a great discussion around kind of what's happening in many of their lives and kind of around the world right now. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I appreciate them doing it and sharing it with the world.
Good. I'm glad.
Now I just I get to keep kind of lifting my night up. You know, I get to go from that to recording with you 2 episodes. And
nice.
Yeah, we got a lot to be thankful for, Mike.
That was a good transition. Thank you.
Okay.
So what are we talking about today?
Sounded convincing, right? So we today are going to do a little episode that we thought would be timely on how to save money on vacation.
Which is an unfortunate reminder that I should be in Germany right now, but I'm not because my flights were canceled and every hotel that I was planning on staying at was closed.
Yeah. And they won't even let you into the country without like a 2-week quarantine or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I can't even fly directly there. It's there is no way that I could possibly make this trip happen. It's okay. We've kind of moved on. We've accepted it. We planned some new trips. It'll be okay.
I mean, you say you moved on, but most of the times we talk, you bring it up.
That's true.
Like every day this week, you're like, I should be in Germany right now.
Well, it was also a tough week. So I definitely would have been happier in Germany, hiking around the mountains.
Sorry.
Anyway.
Well, we were supposed to go. This was one of the first summers that we've not had an international trip planned. And we tried to kind of do like an international trip every other summer, I guess, with the kids over the past couple of years when they've been old enough to not be ridiculous to travel with. And so this year we were actually supposed to do this whole like East Coast road trip for 2 weeks. And we were visiting tons of my family members. Shout out to my family members. We were going to DC, Hershey, Pennsylvania, Ocean City, New Jersey. We were going to stay with a lot of family and it was going to be great. And we could do some of it, but it's just not really worth it. And I don't want to put some of my family members in a position of, not wanting us in their house because, we've been who knows where and, spreading stuff up and down the eastern seaboard. So
I think you and I are kind of in agreement that we might be sort of ready to do some parts of travel, but not fully comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But that being said, there are a ton of people who are out and about Memorial Day weekend. I mean, beach resorts were packed. I mean, people are traveling again.
Yep, people are traveling again. And so we just thought, what a great time to talk about how to travel right now. We wanted to kind of do a focus in this episode a little bit less on like airfare and things like that, since people really aren't flying much right now, and focus more on how to, not break the bank while you are traveling this summer, particularly because a lot of the recent discussions we've had, of all the years that I personally want to be a little bit more frugal with my vacations, it's this year, just because of what's going on in the world. I like to just kind of be a little bit more conservative, have a little bit more saved right now. And travel is typically an area a little bit different than you, Mike, where I will splurge a lot sometimes. And this year, I'm just not feeling as wanting to splurge because of the kind of, pay cuts and just broader things going on in the economy.
Was that just a dig at me? Like, what?
No, I know we have slightly different, like you certainly will try harder than I will at times to save on travel. And I will kind of go through a mix of like, I'll just splurge sometimes on travel. I think more so than you will.
Let's reframe this. I think what you actually mean is I am better at finding deals than you are. It's not that I don't splurge.
That's fair. I will sometimes stay in some more luxurious properties and locations.
I do too. I just don't pay for them.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I pay full price for them.
This is not the point of the conversation. Okay, I just can't help but be competitive with you. Okay. All right. So where do you want to start?
I splurge more than you do, though. Is that the theme? Just kidding.
No,
okay.
Nope. Moving on. So speaking of luxurious places to stay, we should probably start with accommodations, because at this point, if you're not flying anywhere, this is going to be probably the single most expensive part of your trip, right? So we work for a hotel company, and so we're obviously like very much into this and invested in this. But there are a number of different ways that you can book a hotel, and there are major chains, there are little boutique hotels, but wherever you are looking to stay, there's going to be a bunch of different hotels, and there's going to be a bunch of different ways you can go buy those things. So you can go to Travelocity, Orbitz, you can go directly to the hotel website. There might be some other way that you can get some special rate through a group that you're involved in. You can sign up for a credit card and get hotel points. But basically, don't just find a hotel you like and book it. Like, definitely just do 5 minutes of research, and you're going to be able to find a different website that offers a better deal. You'll be able to use points. There will be a way that you can get what you're looking for there cheaper. And also by doing that, you're probably going to come across some other hotels that might be just as good or better.
One additional hotel comment is it's important for people to understand that when they book through like an Expedia or a Travelocity or a third party, that company is actually taking a cut. And 99% of the time, if you're booking with a big chain, you will get the cheapest rate by booking direct. Unless you're booking one of the types where you can't tell what brand you're booking. But all of the hotel companies have policies where the cheapest rate is with them. And the only time you would find a cheaper rate of a branded hotel on another site, it's usually actually like a violation or an issue of something that's out of sync. And when you click through, you'll usually see that it's the same price. So a lot of people have a misconception that they'll get a better deal by going to these third-party sites. And it's really not true. They might be helpful for some of the research, but you'll get the best rate and the most direct experience and kind of situation when you book direct, particularly with the big brands.
And you can easily compare this within 2 minutes of just going to a few sites and checking. Yeah. This is not a hard thing to validate.
There's also sites like roomkey.com is a site that actually is a conglomerate of all the big hotel brands, and they help compare the rates for you. So all the brands have gotten together to say, hey, if you're going to book direct anyways, like you can certainly compare all of the different locations in a given city and kind of see what's the best option for you, and cut out the third parties. So.
And along those same lines, if you are doing like a private rental, like a VRBO or HomeAway or something like that, these places also list their property on multiple different sites. And in a lot of cases, if you were to find your way to book directly through them instead of through the platform, VRBO or HomeAway, whatever, you can get a better deal. Not only will you save some of the fees that those sites charge, but the owners of those places have to pay a considerable amount to have that booking through them. And so they're willing to give you better rates. And then if you find a place that you like and you want to go to regularly, if you just develop a relationship with that owner directly, you just say, hey, I want to come for another month. What can you do for me? And they're under no obligation to give a certain rate. They'll make a deal with you.
Yeah, I've definitely done that when we've kind of come back to visit the same property again. And I just actually did this. I'll do this all the time, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I just did this with a property we just booked in Florida for a couple weeks. But when you find a property that you like through VRBO or Airbnb, usually it has a name, like some kind of kitschy name, like Sunshine Villa or something like that. And if you go and search for that name on Google and whatever the city is, you'll see if they have a direct website or if they're booked through a local rental company in that market. And then I'll go and look at the rate there. And a lot of times it is cheaper because there's lower fees. And so again, once I sort of lock in the property I want, I'll just do one last search to see if there's a cheaper version of that same rental that I can book somewhere else.
And speaking of fees, for any hotel or private home that you're booking, don't just look at the nightly rate, because there's going to be all kinds of other stuff added. There's going to be different taxes. There's going to be like resort fees. There's going to be parking fees and pet fees and all this other stuff that you are going to be obligated to pay. And so once you find 1, 2, or 3 places you like, go through the booking flow and see what the total cost comes out to be, because only then can you really understand if one deal is better than the other.
Yeah, I just did that for a 2-week rental. And Mike, some of the prices where the nightly rate was, $20-$30 more a night was like $1,000 less than the total stay, because the cleaning fees, because one property had some like funky add-on fees, really high cleaning fees, and they all just sort of like make up a bunch of different fees, and they can be very different at times. So it's definitely worth the extra step. The other thing that I am really personally excited about, because I just did it, and I sometimes think about it, but the more I thought about it, I was like, this is brilliant, and I'm going to do more and more of this in the future, is, think about an area that's a little bit less in demand or a little bit less popular, but might have some of the same kind of overall values and benefits and amenities. So as an example, we just booked a house in Florida in this little town. It's like a little canal town. It's a little bit further than some of the beaches that are closer driving distance from Atlanta. It's close to Sanibel Island. It's a 15-20 minute drive to the beach, but all the houses like back up on these really cool canals, and a lot of them have kayaks, and you can go out directly into the water. So I just noticed it is like 25% to 30% the price of some of these other more popular beach towns that we typically have gone to in the past. And so we booked a 2-week rental. And again, it was just, I was shocked by how much cheaper it was. And it's what made me book 2 weeks, honestly, and sort of feel like I was reasonable. So we ended up getting a house with a pool on a canal, 15-20 minute drive to the beach, an hour drive to the Everglades, which I've never been to, and we thought would be a fun day trip. And it was like less than $2,300 for 2 weeks, Mike, which I think is an incredibly good price.
That's a pretty good price.
That same house in Florida, in St. Simons, and some of the kind of Georgia beaches would have been well over $6,000, $7,000.
But would you have paid $6,000 or $7,000?
Well, we had a $3,000 house for spring break that we ended up canceling.
That's not $7,000 though.
Well, it was for 1 week.
Oh, okay.
So if I booked it for 2,
yeah, that's expensive.
2, I'm good with the math.
You do splurge on travel, Maggie.
Well, that house was slightly big. It was like a 4-bedroom house instead of a 3-bedroom house because we had both of our moms coming. Anyways, point is, consider a less popular or a less in-demand location, because also it's just going to be less crowded, right? So I'm not a huge fan of crowds, especially right now. For us, it was perfect to just have a house with a pool on some water that we can just chill out at for a couple weeks with our family and get a little bit of a change of scenery from where we have been at for the last 3 months.
And especially now, I think people who are a little hesitant to travel are going to want places that are not as popular, because there's just going to be less people. Like I do not want to go to a popular destination right now. I want to stay as far away from people as possible.
Yeah. I totally agree. And what's kind of cool is when you're on Airbnb or VRBO too, you can go to the map view. I'm pinching my fingers, like you see what I mean. And you can zoom out and you can kind of move around and get a sense of like what the rates are in different parts of different areas and kind of go inland a little bit and see what it costs and all that. And then just, weigh the trade-offs. I think another just last point on accommodations while we're talking about them is I think it's really worth looking at some of the extra amenities that might be offered with one rental house versus another. So for example, we'll look at certain houses and it'll have 4 bikes that it comes with. Or the one that we booked in Florida had 2 kayaks. And there were others that didn't have kayaks. And so, I was like telling my husband, I'm like, hey, go Google this town and see how much it's going to cost us to rent 2 kayaks for a week even. And it was like hundreds of dollars. So I was like, okay, well, that one's worth a lot more to me now, right? Especially if you want those amenities. And so, some places charge to heat the pool, some places don't. And really pay attention to those amenities because they can add up or they can save you a lot of money in things that you don't then have to go pay to do, like rent bikes or rent kayaks or, rent other sort of extracurricular activities.
And if you look at this from an economic perspective, places that have lower demand are going to need to do things differently in order to increase their demand. And so if you are looking for a house on the beach, they know they don't have to do much because people want to stay on the beach. If you want to stay 20 minutes away from the beach, there's probably going to be some other cool stuff that you can get in addition to a better price. So great point, Maggie.
I also really think about be realistic about what your family enjoys doing or what you enjoy doing if it's just you or a partner.
Like you're definitely not going kayaking. Is that what you're saying?
No. I love to go kayaking and my kids do too. But seriously, every time I go to the beach, all my kids want to do is hang out at the pool. And I'm like, why are we even at the beach? We could hang out at the pool like a hotel 30 minutes from our house, So one of the things that we realize is that our kids mostly care about playing in a pool all week. And so again, that's why we were like, look, I don't care if it's a 20-minute drive to the beach because we might go to the beach every 3 days or maybe even once a week or something, because that's not our number one priority. And we're being realistic about how ourselves and how the kids want to spend their time and how they're going to end up spending their time. And so I'm not going to pay for something that we're just not going to use every day.
Yeah.
So the other big category, Mike, aside from accommodations, where people spend, I think, the most money while traveling is on
food, definitely.
Food, for sure. Yes. There's so many ways you can save money on food while traveling.
I think the first thing that you should be mindful of is definitely plan ahead. See if a hotel is offering free breakfast. See if they have an inexpensive food option in the hotel or nearby. Because if you go to like an upscale hotel, you're going to pay over $100 for your family to eat breakfast. You're going to pay over $100 for your family to eat lunch. You're going to pay $200 for your family to eat dinner. And then all of a sudden, you have tripled your daily expenses just because you didn't think about where you were going to eat. And a lot of places will offer free breakfast. This goes back to this economic concept that if there's lower demand, they need to do something differently to increase their demand.
If you stay at a Holiday Inn Express, you get an amazing free breakfast that 5 of us are eating. That's I feel like we eat $100 worth of food every morning. And basically it's like they're paying us to stay there almost, Mike.
I value free breakfast so greatly because if you load up on breakfast, because here's what you do. You eat a huge breakfast and then you take a bunch of bananas and stuff with. Yeah, exactly.
I was just going to say, I'm like kids, take an apple, put it in your pocket.
Yeah, exactly. Then you take all your snacks. You can have a light lunch. It kind of satisfies 2 meals.
Plus, that fruit's going to go bad. So again, you're kind of helping them out.
We're really doing them and the environment a favor in our minds, right?
Mike, I don't remember when you told me this story, but when you talk about planning ahead on food for travel, I always think about, making sure that you bring snacks on an airplane so you don't get stuck in an airport where it's expensive snacks and overpriced food on a plane and all that. And I feel like one time you were telling me a story where you're like, Britta, your wife is always asking you hey, do you want me to make you a sandwich? And you're always like, no, it's fine. And then she'll make a bunch of stuff and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the best sandwich I've ever had. Yeah. I'm so glad you made this. But yeah, we try to plan ahead. We know that ourselves and the kids are going to be hungry, and if we go on a long plane trip or something, I'll pack a ridiculous amount of food because all my kids do is eat when we travel, and I don't want to get stuck having to buy them a bunch of stuff on planes. Also, it's good to travel with cute kids on planes because the flight attendants just keep giving them like free food, which is pretty funny.
Which you then take and put in your pockets for later.
Yeah, I'm like, tell them you're hungry again.
So in addition to like finding a place that has free breakfast, if you're going for a reasonable amount of time, try to book a place that has a kitchen or a kitchenette in it and like really force yourself to go pick up some groceries and bring it back. What makes people spend money on food is when they're tired and they just want something quick and they go to a restaurant because they know it. But if you have a kitchen and then you've already bought just a little bit of food, then all of a sudden the trade-off is like, am I really going to waste this food? And even easier opportunity to make a meal versus spending, 10 times as much to go out.
I think that's a great suggestion. And if you do have a kitchen or a kitchenette, go grocery shopping and really stock up on food at the beginning of your trip so that you have good stuff to eat and, get some extra treats and stuff that'll make everybody happy so that you're not tempted to go out to eat every night or go out for dessert every night, and that you really do, have some fun at your rental house or even in your hotel kitchenette or whatever it might be for some of the meals that are easier, like breakfast, snacks, lunch, things like that. And then, perhaps you go out for dinner as a family or something like that. There's times when depending on kind of where we're going, certain beach towns, for example, that don't really have great grocery store options, and it's a little overpriced, and you're on like an island and it just costs more. We'll do a lot of grocery shopping at home. Like we'll stock up and do a big like Trader Joe's shopping trip because we're going to a town that doesn't have the typical grocery stores we're used to shopping in, and so we want to stock up on a bunch of stuff we love and treats for the kids, and then we'll just pack a cooler and kind of fill the car up with food, and we're already stocked once we get there, which I think helps too because you've already taken care of it and you can enjoy your trip and not spend your vacation grocery shopping.
It makes it a little bit harder to go out for dinner because I paid for this food, it's sitting here, it's ready. Do I really want to waste it and go pay money for something? So there's a psychological trick to thinking ahead and planning ahead that would prevent you from just wasting money on your trip.
So another tip for saving money on vacation, even if you do not have a place with a kitchen or a hotel room with a little kitchenette or something, there's still some creative things you can do. And I can vouch for the fact that I've done this on multiple trips. I've even done this on international trips where we will actually buy a cooler in the town that we land in. So I did this in Canada. I did this in Ireland. One of the first places we'll go is to like a Walmart, Target type of store. And we'll buy a cooler because it still saves us lots of money. And then we'll fill it with ice. We'll put milk, yogurts, snacks for the kids, other things. And we'll keep that in the car while we're kind of on our road trip in between stops. And we'll use it it won't cover all of our meals, but it certainly will help us kind of take care of like breakfast and snacks and lunch and little meals like that. And it cuts out, a lot of money when you're not having to eat every single meal out while you're traveling, particularly internationally. And so I think it's just even when you think you don't have other options for not eating every single meal out, you do. And if you want to get a little bit creative with it, like bringing a cooler with you from home if you can, or packing a cooler, going and buying a cooler in whatever town you're in, it often is still worth the price of investing that cooler. And then I got all sorts of funny stories that I don't have time for tonight, Mike, of me trying to unload coolers before I leave a particular town, because then I'm like, I have this like $40 cooler, and I'm like, I don't want to just like throw it away. So I got a lot of funny stories where I'm trying to like get rid of coolers before we get out of town. A lot of I'm trying to like give coolers to homeless people. I mean, there's all sorts of things where it sometimes can be very hard to actually get rid of a cooler, and you can't just leave like abandoned coolers on the side of the road.
One of the more memorable experiences I have kind of doing a little bit of food hacking, if you will, is when we went to France for a couple weeks, and we spent 3 or 4 days in Paris, and our older daughter was like 18 months at the time. And so we were staying in a like very fancy hotel on the Champs-Élysées on points. We did not pay cash for it.
I was gonna say it's only because you worked for a hotel company.
No, this was before I worked for a hotel company.
Oh, was it? Okay. But on points.
On points. And we didn't eat anything in the hotel, not a single meal. and there was a grocery store like a few blocks away. And in the morning, we'd wake up and we'd go buy a little breakfast. And then we'd also buy some pre-made sandwiches. And we were doing it because we were interested in saving money and we didn't want to sit down for like expensive meals, which we did like once or twice, and they were not very pleasant with an 18-month-old, and the service wasn't great. The food was okay. I mean, it wasn't like a great experience, but what we did love was getting sandwiches and sitting out under the Eiffel Tower, like in a park.
Yeah, it's so cool.
And just like eating a sandwich and relaxing. So like if you get your food and you can go, you're not attached to the restaurant environment, you can go have like really great experiences. And that's what really stuck with me, was that we had lunch in these amazing iconic locations all over Paris for just a few dollars a piece. It was awesome.
Yeah, I love it. I agree that I think it often kind of gives you just a much more sort of unique, organic experience in a city. I don't know
Yeah,
what the
definitely.
word is for it, but we've talked about accommodations. We've talked about food. One of the next biggest categories is spending money on activities, excursions, things like that. And so I think, some of our general comments on this are similar to other categories in the sense of, put some time into planning and thinking ahead of what you're going to want to do on vacation. Research your options. Look to see if there's any Groupons, online coupons, sales, etc. Look and see if there's certain days where kids are cheaper or there's discounts, and then, book that stuff first and plan around it. And then, one thing, Mike, that I am very passionate about when I travel is not overbooking myself. So I really like the idea of kind of slow travel. And particularly when you have kids, like I think if you overbook yourself, it just sort of ruins the vacation. And so I just really like to sort of keep it simple on the activities and enjoy the place I'm at in a more natural way, and not feel like I have to, have something like official that I'm scheduled to do, twice a day or every day.
I totally agree. This category is kind of a personal preference thing too, because there are a lot of people who want to go do activities that are provided to them, which cost money. And there are people who like to just go hike and explore. And I think you and I are definitely in the latter group. Yeah. But I think back to a trip before we had kids where we went to Hawaii for a few weeks. And, I went deep sea fishing one day for like a couple $100, and Britta did surf lessons for a couple $100. But other than that, like we were hiking every day. We were hiking and exploring and doing things that didn't cost any money. And that was like great for us. But if you are the type of person that wants to do activities, like definitely don't overbook yourself, because not only is it going to just overwhelm you with activities, but it's going to be a lot cheaper. And you may find that you really end up just enjoying just relaxing for a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I have this weird thing when I'm on vacation too. My husband is very familiar with it now, where I really don't like to feel like I'm on an agenda and I have like stuff I have to be at. Like if it just stresses me out. I'm like, the last thing I want is a schedule and places I have to be at a certain day. I want to just sort of let it naturally, evolve and like get there, see how we're feeling, see how much energy everybody has. If the kids are digging the pool and they're having a blast, I don't want to have to pull them away from it and be like, we've booked these 3 excursions and we have to go, I personally enjoy my vacations a lot better when I have less stuff booked. And I don't want to spend the money anyways, right? Half the time it's like I've rented this house. It's got a pool. It's got kayaks. It's got all this other stuff. Like I want to enjoy it and get my money's worth out of it. And I'm going to book a few things throughout that stay, but I'm not going to overdo it.
And in addition to the types of activities that you would normally pay for, take a look at the local calendar of events in the town or city you are visiting. There's going to be arts fairs and farmers markets. There's going to be parades and festivals. There's going to be concerts and all kinds of stuff. And this is something that I do a really poor job at. But then I'm also like pleasantly surprised and find some awesome stuff when I travel. And then I walk outside and all of a sudden there's some huge festival. I'm like, this is great. Here's my day,
Yeah. No, I think this is a great one, and sort of this is almost where I would start before you look into anything that does cost money, because these can often be some of the best experiences. I remember a trip where we went to Seaside, Florida, and the town center and kind of town square there, every single night they have something different happening. They have a play that's targeted towards kids. They have a magician out. They have live music. And so it's like every single night you can just go out to the town square and just kind of hang out. And there's this huge lawn and all the kids are just hanging around. And you don't need to do anything else, right? It's there for you. They've created this amazing experience, and it is there for you to take advantage of. And like I said, I personally like to take a bit of a minimalist approach and just kind of enjoy the simple things. And I also like to enjoy the free things that are provided to me by that community.
Yes, the simple and free things. It's a good way to live your life.
Simple and free things, yeah. I think the last thing here is just, if you can bring things from home, again, kind of think ahead. So if you're able to bring your bikes and you have a bike rack, and, that could be really expensive to rent, and it's hard to find ones the right sizes for your kids that they're comfortable on. And so if you're able to pack things like bikes or different pool floats or other things so that you're not tempted to buy stuff. Like, I swear, every time I walk into a store at the beach, my kids are pointing to like a popsicle shaped pool float or something that they, are demanding that I buy them. And I'm like, don't worry. I already brought the donuts that we've invested in past years. So we have tons of pool floaties that we brought with us. So I like to head them off with stuff like that.
And these stores know that if you didn't bring your pool floats and you are desperate for something, you will pay $25 for a $5 pool float.
Yeah, $40. Yes. So speaking of that, the last category we're going to talk about of how you save money on vacation, speaking of all these stores that you're in, are stuff, right? So when you're on vacation, you're going in these touristy stores. They are designed to sell you all of these convenience items, t-shirts with the name of the city on it, shot glasses, keychains, just sand bottle thing, just all sorts of stuff that, these stores are like obnoxious in my opinion. And they're just, you walk in there with your kids and it's like your kids want everything and they're going to ask you for everything. And like we've talked about on other episodes, you don't need to buy them. Like, you don't need to buy them all this stuff, right? You came here to enjoy the beach, the pool, family time, whatever it is. You didn't go there to buy them a bunch of crap from a store. And that stuff's just a distraction. So I would encourage you to not fall trap to all of the things that you may see around you and the things that your kids in particular may demand that you buy for them. On the flip side, Mike, one thing that I will say I do while I'm on vacation, and I am a big proponent of, is sometimes vacation is one of the few times that I have time for and an interest in doing a little bit of shopping that I need to do. And so I, for example, like buying things that I already need while I'm on vacation because I have time and because it's a little bit of a memory. So these are some like examples, but like my Patagonia winter jacket, that's kind of my main winter jacket. Like, I bought it in Canada when we were on vacation a few years ago at a Patagonia store. And it's great because I needed it. It's functional. I wear it every year. And it's a great memory of our trip to Canada with the kids. Do you like buying stuff like that on vacation?
I'm not sure I'm in the same camp of doing my normal shopping while on vacation, but I appreciate the idea that if you buy something that has great function in your life, having it tied to a very powerful memory like that makes the purchase more meaningful than it otherwise would be.
I'll give you another example to further sell you on the concept of this. So
I think I just agreed with you. You don't need to further sell.
Sort of. Okay, this is a great story. We use cloth napkins. You're going to love it, Mike. We use cloth napkins primarily. We don't use paper towels and stuff like that. And like so when we, like have napkins at dinner or when we were like wiping down the counter, we just use cloth ones. And I've had the same ones for a really long time. And I'm kind of like, I need a bigger supply of them. And we went to Japan last year and I knew I love the style of Japanese things. And so I knew that was probably like a cool place where I could very proactively look for and find a new supply of cloth napkins. And I went like out of my way. I was like Googling and like asking people, trying to do like Google Translate to ask for like, where could I find these? Because I wasn't naturally running into them. And then I found like a restaurant district. And then we found all these stores that just had like the coolest things. And so I stocked up on like from a bunch of different places, just really cool new cloth napkins. And so those are like our day-to-day cloth napkins. And I love them. They remind me of our trip to Japan. And They were something that I functionally needed. I have some bowls that I bought in London. Anyways, I could go on and on, but you get the idea.
I do get the idea. I'm glad you found some meaningful purchases on your trips. No, I don't want you to keep sharing stories about it.
Okay, so we could, since you don't want to hear any more of my stories, let's jump into our key takeaways for this episode. 1, don't overspend on vacation. So we really encourage you to align what you spend on vacation with what you have to spend right now. So we didn't talk about this a lot throughout the episode, but we think it's important to say, there's times that you might be in a position to splurge, and then, go for it, feel comfortable about it if you have the money and you're not going to go into debt over it. And then there's other times where you might want to be a little bit cost conscious. So, make sure your vacation at any given time aligns with how you're doing financially at that point in your life. And
this is a long takeaway, Maggie.
And just in general, I think the idea that, you can go on vacation and save money and enjoy yourself, which is kind of our theme of what we talk about in general, which is saving money and being frugal is not meant to make you miserable. You can still enjoy your life and be happy while saving money.
And number 2, whatever category of expense you are looking at, plan and think ahead. You can save a ton of money just by putting some thoughts into your food and your activities, planning ahead, bringing some stuff along with you. The savings add up when you are going away for a period of time. And then lastly, try a new approach. Perhaps you should rent a place with a kitchenette and do some grocery shopping and bring your food and do picnics. You might actually find a new way of travel that you really enjoy and value because you have tried some new cost-saving tactics, which we discussed on the show.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Mike, and is just a tiny example of what you may find in your broader life, which is many of these, money-saving tactics and approaches you might actually have some fun with and you could enjoy more than you may realize you do. And it doesn't need to feel like something that you're, limiting yourself, but it actually can be something that makes you happy in the end. Okay, well, I hope you end up finding a nice backup vacation for the Germany trip you had to cancel, Mike.
Thank you.
And I'm going to enjoy myself in Florida in a couple weeks.
Yeah. I look forward to looking at your expenses afterwards to make sure that you are living by these rules. Yeah, we're going to do that. Don't worry.
I just had to pay for the place this month, so it sort of blew my budget in May, the month we're in. Also, I'm going to have to buy like multiple tanks of gas, which I'm just not used to. So it's going to be a new experience for us. Okay, let's do a quick Mike's Minute on the Mic.
All right.
This is where I get to ask Mike one question. He only has 60 seconds to answer. Mike, what is the best vacation you have ever taken in your entire life?
Easy. After business school, I went to Thailand for a month and went backpacking around the country. It was amazing.
That sounds awesome. Who'd you go with?
I went with a tour called G Adventures. They're like G Adventures and Intrepid are like the two big kind of like young person tour companies. And so it was super cool. We stayed in like very rustic places. There was a lot of people my age that were all traveling by themselves.
But like you didn't know anybody going in.
I didn't know anybody. And that was the point. Didn't know anybody, had never been to the country before, just showed up, met up with some cool people who I'm still in touch with today.
I was just going to ask, you still keep in touch with people from there, yeah?
Oh, yeah, cool. Absolutely. I was in an amazing trip.
That's awesome. Okay, well, thanks for sharing. We will wrap this episode up, yeah?
All right. If you have any questions or comments, you can give us a call or text us at 404-981-3370. Leave us a question or comment, and we will read on the air.
Yeah, we'd love to hear specifically some of your vacation money saving tips also, because I'm sure our listeners would love to hear those throughout the summer. You can follow us on Instagram or Facebook, and it would be awesome if you could leave us a review on iTunes. It really helps other people to find our podcast when you leave a review, and we would really appreciate it.
And lastly, you can find us at friendsonfire.org if you want to check out our latest episodes.
And we don't do this enough, Mike, but a huge shout out to Clap for Daylight and another big thank you for our intro music. You can find them on iTunes, and they've got some great music.
Yeah. All right. This was fun. Thanks, Maggie.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Bye.